Greetings, my friends, and welcome to SnapDragon Cane. You know, this isn't a hard cane to make, but it takes a lot of patience and a bit of time. I think it's worth it, though. You'll find a clay list over at tinypandora.com with all the details. So I'm starting today with these mixes. There's my indigo there, and my olive green. Those are mixed, and then the dark gold and the light gold come out of the package just like that. They're all primo. And I made them to go together to make a really unusual blend, and you'll see they pretty much do that. Here's one of the tests that I did, and I do recommend that you always do tests, okay, see if you like the blends. So I made conventional Skinner blends. Thank goodness for Judith Skinner, right? I've seen books where they made blends by just putting a little bit of another color with another color just over and over and over and increasing it, and I thought, boy, we wouldn't have many blends if we had to do that, right? So thank you, Judith. So I put these together like this, and you'll see that the corners are offset, and that's just the way that you get your colors to be all of one at each end. So I've got green at one end, I've got gold at one end. When you put them like this way, you get kind of all that center color. It just kind of blends smoothly. And I think that's good for some things, but you know, not for this one. So I've offset the corners for that reason, just to get this particular effect. And you could do that with any of your blends. Don't have to be metallics, it could be white, it could be anything. So I put them together, and I'm going to cut those corners off because I want to have all of one color at each end like this to start out with. And I'm reducing a little bit of that gold because when I made my test I saw that I had a pretty good amount. And the way that we're going to use these blends today is kind of different. They're going to be long sheets that we cut into thirds. So see, if one end is just way too much of one thing or the other, that wouldn't be good, but you want enough. And really that's where the fun is. Testing your blends, trying them, see how they turn out. For me, that's a lot of the enjoyment. So we're going to put it in just like that, okay? Always like that with both colors. So I did my other blend, and that's in the PDF that you find online at my store. I did the other blend with just the 18 karat and then the two blended purples that I had made originally. And in this one, you'll see that the light end there is really pronounced, and that's intentional. That last third of the blend is going to be an accent piece in this cane. So I'm kind of throwing that information out to you right now. It becomes clear as you watch it, and you probably got to watch it twice because, you know, it's a lot more comprehensible if you see the end result and how we do it. Well, see, now I've got 6 blends, and that's what I was after. I was wanting to have gradation that's broken up, and you'll see why. That's what creates all those little spidery white lines. But we'll go forward with this, wrapping those in half like this, just like this, and making them into strips. And once you have them folded like that, you put them in one color side down, you know, either the gold or the purple. They're going to go in long ways into the machine with one color side down. And that's how you get all those strips that you see us using all the time, you know, on HOP, on Facebook, on all of our groups and stuff. I hope you're HOP members, HOP, Hooked on Polymer. I'll leave you a link if you want to join us. Anyway, see, I cut that one, I cut off the edge a little bit because it looked crappy. So I just made it more even. But anyway, I've got plenty of gold at the bottom of this blend, and that's going to be our accent piece today. It's going to be the thing that makes all those little teardroppy shapes. And all the rest of these will go into the body of the cane next to each other. So when I make one like this is just a jelly roll. You know, a jelly roll is a spiral with different colors in it, and a bullseye is any cane that's wrapped in another color. So this is a jelly roll and a bullseye. Becomes a bullseye when we put our outer wrap on. So you see those terms thrown around, you know, and sometimes it's kind of confusing, but that's how I understand them. So that's a number 4 white wrap. You don't even want to know how many colors I tried on these colors. They're so odd. You know, all the wraps just looked horrible. When I finally came up with the white, it was like a miracle. So I'm going to fold that in, make a little dent, makes a little line where that edge is. And you want to line up your edges pretty well. You know, you don't want them to be too long because then they'll create a bump there. So I just smoothed that out. Now I wrapped them all up. I didn't make you watch me, it's too boring. But I wrapped all my colors up, including that accent piece, the one with the gold in the middle. And I'm very carefully and slowly reducing them to 6 inches. I need them to be 6 inches long. And I want them to be uniform and smooth. If you have to cut them when you're finished, just make sure they're as much the same as you can to start with. They're going to get all bent up, you know, along the way anyway, so you may as well start with them pretty uniform. And I cut each of them into 3 pieces. That's why I wanted them 6 inches long. So I'd have all these 2-inch pieces. See? So there's the little ones, the accent ones I'm leaving out, and I put all the others stacked up like this. And what I did was I put 3 same colors next to each other in a row of 5. Now listen, you can do this any way you want to, and when you go to reshape it into a triangle, which we're going to do in a minute, you could go the other way. You could make it a triangle with the colors alternating. But the way I have it in my mind is, you see the one side is the green and the other side is purple. And then it goes to the lighter green at the end. I arranged them that way because it just was nice to my eye. It's not scientific at all. So I'm taking my roller and I'm compressing this, compacting it. I'm trying to be pretty deliberate about it because this is a point in which your cane starts to necessitate symmetry. Okay, so if I start getting this really wonky and uneven now, it's going to be hard to line up all the motifs later. So I've kept it kind of, you know, kind of lined up, and now I'm forming it into a triangle. And this part I sped up because, you know, I was just dying. I was falling asleep trying to edit it, but you know, I sped it up a lot. I always feel like I gotta talk really fast, but I can't do that. And I'm making it into a triangle. You'll find with these kind of canes that go from square to triangle, time is your best friend. Because we may not want to watch this process, but when you're doing it, just put on your music and relax and take your time so that you don't get so much waste switching out the sides. Now that's trimmed, believe me, there was some bulge. But you know, I didn't want you to see it. No, I just cut to the trim part because that's what we need to do. So I was going to trim it a little bit closer so that I can kind of really get a good look at it and see if each end is symmetrical. And it's during that process that I start to look at my grid and see that all my lines are, you know, fairly straight. So I'm going to create a channel with my cane bender. That's my 3/4 inch, I believe. Yes, my 3/4 inch cane bender. And no, that's the 1/2 inch, excuse me. That's the 1/2 inch, the second largest one that you get. They go 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, and 1/8 inch, I think. That way you have a really skinny one for dots. Okay, so I've got my cane bender in there, and I made myself a channel. And I only need this insert to be half as big because we're going to cut it in half. It's going to go in the middle. So now if I were going to lay this all the way across, make it smaller and make it fill that channel, then when I cut it in half, I'd have 2, you know, little eyeballs there. And I don't really want that. Right now, I just want 1 in the center. And speaking of eyeballs, I always end up changing the shape of these to be teardrop or elongated or capsule, because that way it doesn't give the look of, you know, eyeballs staring at you. So I'm going to see that it's going to fit in that channel pretty well, because it's the same size pretty much as that roller I was using. But when you put these two together, it's going to create a void space. And I wish you could just squeeze it together, but it really doesn't. It doesn't work like that. You always need voids to be filled if they're very pronounced like this one is. And that takes us over to the idea of the teardrop anyway, because just having the dot there isn't as graceful looking as something with a little point in it anyway. So you'll see that over and over again. You know, you think, oh no, it doesn't fit. Well, it fits if you change it, and if you change it, it'll be prettier. So you never have to be afraid of that. Just make it fit because, as I have said before, the clay is not the boss of us. We are the boss of the clay. So I'm making that point, and in the end product you see how important that really was to the way this whole thing looks. I'm just checking both ends of it to make sure it's pretty much lined up. I'm going to obviously trim that off in a minute, but I just want to make sure that it's nice and even. That's just a little template from the Easy Cuffs. You just need a straight edge of some kind. It doesn't have writing on it. Anyway, you just need a straight edge of some kind, and I just use them for that. I've got that line straightened out because it's got to go end to end and be pretty symmetrical. Because as I said, when we cut it later and we try to match it up, you know, I've got one side going a little higher. I love the way that looks. I'm going to match the bottom part all up, and then I'm going to let that top part that we pinched small kind of flop over the top like a wave. And I love that part. It adds a lot to the cane. So tuck that in. You can match them up if you want to. I just like the swirly thing. So I swirled it over, and I'm really making sure that nothing's uneven. You need to take the time, whatever time it takes to do that. That's another reason I work on a grid surface. It can really be telling, when you lay something down and it doesn't fit the lines. But that looks really cool, and that other side's going to look really cool in there too. I know you're going to like that. So we're going to fit it together, making sure all the bottom motifs are lined up and the top one wraps over the top. And then we're going to reduce it. And you probably get tired of cane reduction. A lot of people talk about resting canes, but mine's matched up. Mine's soft already because I've been working it over for hours today. And I'm going to reduce it now while it's all one temperature. So, yeah, I guess you can rest a completely finished cane before you slice it, but I don't rest them before I reduce them. I'm not sure where that started. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But no, I keep going even when I'm a little bit tired, because right now all that clay has been, well used, and it's all a really good temperature for what we need to do. So before we take it down all the way, and while it's still soft, I'm going to make some more adjustments to it. I'm going to take my rod again. I'm going to sink it into one of the sides. I'm just making sure it's really lined up before I do that. And I'm going to create a space for another one of those 2-inch pieces. I've got 3 of them, and I have 3 of them on purpose. I'm going to put 2 in, and then really gauge where the void or boring spot is in this cane, and put the 3rd one in later. And you've always got a little bit of extra. When you reduce them and place them in channels, you've always got a little bit extra to put in voids if one should kind of crop up on you. We may not have needed it in this cane, but believe me, it happens. So we're going to even it up. I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to get that line placed in there, and I'm really watching my lines on my grid right now, making sure it goes there, and it goes there, and comes out at the same side on each end. See, because those lines are going to be cut and have to match up. So that's it. I don't think this is hard. It's just painstaking kind of, but I meet a lot of caners at Indie Jam and at classes that I do around the whole country. And, caners, we're a pretty odd sort. People that would choose to do this and have the patience for it, I think that's part of the enjoyment, the fact that it's pretty painstaking. So I'm going to lay down this side, and I'm going to make a pretty tight curl there to put in my next piece of fill. And that fill is my accent cane, the one with the gold. And it's what's making those pops throughout the cane. Now I've got my piece shaped the way I wanted. It's another kind of a teardrop shape. I'm making sure that it fits in that little spot, and I'm going to curl up the edge. Now listen, when you're doing this, you don't have to do it just like this if you don't want to. You know, I want you to just throw stuff in there wherever you want to put it. And always feel like the shapes reflect what you want it to look like. You know, you could take your square benders and have all pointy, like triangular and square geometric shapes in your cane. That would be such a different look and so interesting. And also, this cane's got all these blends, you know, because I wanted to show them to you, and some of you wanted to see them. But believe me, you know, the first time I made it with just red and yellow. See, they just go in there. I'm going to add another one. You know I'm going to add another one. I can't leave well enough alone. I'm not going to even start today. But anyway, if you had wanted to, you could just take some red and yellow, make a nice fiery blend. I love that color of, you know, gradient orange. And you could just make the whole cane with one blend. See what I mean? Just little jelly rolls of one blend. Okay, so there's that little piece. I'm putting it in another curl over on the side. I've still got a piece left, and you know, that can be used for fill if you need it, but this cane went together really easily, and it flattened and got triangular really easy. See those sides? You can kind of push them in a little bit, but with these kind of canes, you're better off to trim them up. Okay, you get some scrap, you know. So I took that cane and I made it twice its length. You do that almost every time so you have plenty to cut. And I made it real pointy. So I just pressed it on my work surface and made all the sides, you know, super pointy. And now you're almost done, because all you've got to do is flatten it against your work surface like this. And you see it goes from extreme diamond to just really half a square. The end result is diamond shaped, because you know you don't have to watch me make it into a square, but I have a lot of videos about that. So there it is. It's done. I don't think it was that hard to do. It just takes time, and I want you to take your time and have fun with it. Bye bye.